Hello again, everyone. I am Chris Scherer, and this is the Citizen Sports Weekly for Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, the last day of November. I'll throw it out there right now before I introduce Robert Harding and Justin Ritzel. Tomorrow is my daughter Kaylee's 21st birthday.
Ooh.
So I'm going to wish her happy birthday a day early. But yeah, she's legal tomorrow.
Start popping those Coors Lights.
Yeah, well, nice thing is now she can treat me to a beer. So, hey. All right, gentlemen, Mr. Harding, Mr. Ritzel, let's get right to it. Last week, quick recap. I was 3-1. Wow, go figure. Thank you, Giants, for the backdoor cover. And Robert and Justin reached 1-3 for the season. Robert and I are both tied, 23-22, and Justin is only two little games behind at 21-24. So it's been a very competitive season so far. No one is running away with it. So let's get right to it. Our first game tomorrow night, huge AFC East showdown. The Bills are 4-point favorites on the road at beautiful Foxborough against the New England Patriots. Bills coming off a tighter win than you would have liked on the road against the Lions last Thanksgiving there.
Oh, come on. Your Dolphins beat them by 4. The Lions are a scrappy team. I give them credit.
Okay. And the Patriots, I believe, went down to the Vikings on Thanksgiving. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, as we know, the last time the Patriots played the Bills, it was the first round of the playoffs. The Bills absolutely waxed the Patriots. But that's not going to happen this time. I like the Patriots to cover the -4. I don't know if they'll win, but I think they won't lose by 4. I think it'll be a three-point game. Bills defense banged up. Von Miller not playing. Their offense, their offense has not been firing in all cylinders recently, Robert. And you can disagree with me if you want, but that's just how I feel. So, and the Patriots do not have a good offense by any means. Okay, they're struggling a lot as well. Pretty darn good. And I think that's what's going to keep this game close is the Patriots defense. So I like New England to cover the -4. Robert, who do you got?
Wow, I think you're showing your Dolphins bias, Chris.
Oh,
with this pick. Look, the Patriots, as much as they kind of went toe to toe with the Vikings there, I think that defense and this is this has really been the story I think of the season is that when the Patriots have gone up against inferior teams or inferior offenses, whatever you want to pick, that, for the most part, they've played pretty well and they've won those games. But when they've gone up against, some of the better teams like the Vikings, they have trouble. And, we certainly saw that on Thanksgiving that, I think they gave up 33 points, I think, in that game. So, I think, really what you're looking at here is a team that, they play good defensive football. They're good when it comes down to like these scrappy, maybe low scoring type games, but that's not the kind of game that you're going to be playing against, the likes of the Vikings or the Bills. So I think Mac Jones will have trouble. Look, I know that you don't look at any injury reports, Chris. It might help your betting a little bit if you did. But the Bills defense, Von Miller is the only person out other than obviously Micah Hyde we knew about, but Von Miller is the only injury on that side of the ball right now. Everybody else is coming back. Everybody else is healthy. Tremaine Edmonds will be back for this game. They'll have both of their young pass rushers, including Greg Rousseau, back for this game. And Jordan Poyer, of course, he played last week and he's playing this week as well. And, we'll see how often they use Trey White. I suspect that, they kind of eased him in, with 15 or 20 snaps against Detroit. I suspect we'll see him more this week. So, I of course am riding with the Bills. I get the critique of the offense, which is quite something for a Dolphins fan to say of all people. You get Tyreek Hill and all of a sudden, offensive whiz over here.
Keep taking
The,
shots at my team to deflect from your team's shortcomings. Go ahead, keep going.
my team's shortcomings. I mean, look, we put up more than 16 points against the Steelers. There's probably other examples that I can pick out here.
How about the Browns?
My team, Bills put up 31 against the Browns. I mean, so I think look, Josh Allen definitely has to clean up his game. There's no question about it. One of my knocks on him would be that, when he does put together 60 minutes of good football, which means that the Bills are putting together 60 minutes of good football, this team's unstoppable. But when you're throwing red zone picks and you're making these mistakes, that keeps the other team in the game, and that's why you end up with outcomes like the Lions game last week, and some of the other games this season. So I think now that we're getting into December football, this is a divisional game. As we know, the Bills haven't won a divisional game this year. This is one that you need to win. You need to set the tone for the month. You need to beat the Patriots. You're going to see them again. So you got to set the tone now on the road, win this Thursday night game. And then, really you're in the driver's seat from there as far as your destiny in terms of the playoffs in the AFC East.
All righty. Justin, who do you like?
Yeah, I get this weird sense that kind of from Bills Mafia that kind of echoes what Chris was saying about this, like the offense isn't clicking on all cylinders and the team's just has this sense of malaise about them over the last month. And listen, I get it. I think that when you score 70 points in your first two games, they beat the Titans by so much week 2 and they were the Super Bowl favorite. I think there's a expectation that comes with that you're going to win every game by 21 points, but this is the NFL. The other teams are professionals, and that's just unless you're the 2007 Patriots, that's just not how it goes. So the Bills are still winning games. They're 8-3. You talk about how their offense has struggled the last few weeks. Well, they've scored 30, 31, and 28 points. So if that's struggling, I'll show you some teams that are really struggling on offense. I'd take that any day of the week. So, but yeah, the thing that holds back the Bills is when Josh Allen starts playing hero and making poor decisions and not just taking the plays that are there or living to fight another day. So I think the Bills are fine. I think as long as they continue to get these wins, I don't really care how you do it because that team really like they were last year. All it takes is a few good games of solid offense. They can show like how explosive they are. So as long as they're not losing these games, I'm not super concerned with them. And I'm going to take the Bills here because I think the Patriots are a solid team. Obviously, Belichick likes to make teams play left-handed and take away what they do best, but they're a team. They're going to struggle to get to 24 points. That's just how they are. Mac Jones is having a pretty tough sophomore season. I think you got to get. I think they're going to have to get to 27 points to cover this spread, and I don't think that they're going to do it. So I'm going to take Buffalo to win and cover here.
All righty. Our next game, the New York Jets at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are 3-point favorites at home. Jets, a great win last week. Mike White coming in at quarterback had a very good game. But the Jets, it's their defense that's doing this for them. This is why the Jets are where the Jets are right now, is their defense has been stellar. The Vikings, I mean, they've had a couple bumps in the road there now and then, but they're clicking too. And I think Minnesota can clinch a playoff spot with a win here. It's only 3. I think if this was a 6-point spread, I might take the Jets to cover, but it's Minnesota by 3. And I think Minnesota can cover the 3. So I'm going with the Vikings to cover. Go ahead, Justin. Who do you like?
Well, the Vikings are frauds. I mean, there's nothing I've seen over the last, several weeks that has removed me from that stance. going back to their win over the Bills, which was the flukiest of all fluky wins. I wasn't a buyer then. You know, I think back to last week against the Patriots on that Thanksgiving game. Just an absolute bizarre overturn of a touchdown that the Patriots scored that I think if that stays as a touchdown like it should have been, you know, the Hunter Henry, like the ball supposedly came loose to, you know, didn't keep control of the ground. But listen, that's all garbage. The NFL is making up rules as they go. That whole like Des Bryant, like got to control the ball through the ground. That's not in the rule book anymore. Like, so the NFL officials that continue to use that, read the rules. That changed. That's gone. So that was a stupid game. The Vikings have been in a lot of stupid games this year. Their offense is fine, but it's not like some world-beating unit, and their defense isn't that good. You know, there's a reason why their point differential is like a difference of 5, because they're an average team. So they've won some games that they probably shouldn't. The Jets have a lot of talent, and I think that Zach Wilson situation was just such a drag on the entire roster. When you have a talented overall team like they do, but your quarterback just cannot do a damn thing, that's tough. I mean, it's tough to win games and stay competitive. And then you got your quarterback going in the press conferences saying, "Oh, I don't think, you know, I don't feel any, you know, I don't feel bad for the defense," or what, you know, whatever the comment he was. You know, just it was time the Jets got him out of there. I don't think Mike White is some savior for that offense, but he's gonna make the throws. He's gonna move the ball a little bit. He's not gonna kill you every time he throws the ball. So with that recipe, I think the Jets have a really solid team. And you know, as much as everyone wants to talk about the Bills and the Dolphins in the AFC East, you know, Jets are no slouch. So I'm going to take the 3 points here. I'm going to take the Jets.
All right. Robert?
Well, you know, I think the Jets made the right call going with Mike White. You know, he doesn't have a history of cougar hunting or, you know, not being a team leader. So, you know, kudos to him for coming out and actually playing the position of quarterback, being a leader. You know, he played a pretty good game for the Jets last week. So credit to him. You know, the Vikings, yeah, they're an interesting case because even that game against the Patriots, you kind of saw the shortcomings of that defense. I mean, Mac Jones looked like he was Tom Brady out there, slinging the rock around, moving the ball down the field. I mean, that was absurd. And I think, you know, even the announcers were surprised by what they were seeing, in that, you know, Mac Jones looked like this, you know, top tier quarterback, moving the Patriots down the field, you know, early on in that game. And, you know, I think that's, you know, a huge red flag for the Vikings, that, you know, you can't stop the likes of Mac Jones. But I do think that the Vikings offense compared to the Jets offense is more potent. You know, you look at, you know, in the backfield, they got Dalvin Cook there. They have one of the best receivers in the game with Justin Jefferson, pretty good supporting cast there too. The Hawkinson pickup at tight end, I think is going to be huge for them, especially as they get into, you know, playoff football and you're playing these cold weather games, need to rely on the short passing game a little more. I think he's going to help a lot. So I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one. I think it'll be close, but I think they can win by a touchdown.
All right, our next game, my Miami Dolphins going on the road to San Francisco. Arguably, this is probably the best game of the week on paper, going up against the 49ers, 3.5-point underdogs. Robert, I'll let you go first on this one.
Well, you know, it's funny. When I saw this game on the schedule, I was like, oh, you know, all this talk about Tua, the MVP, and look, you know, Mike McDaniel was my coach of the year pick coming into this year. I'm not going to completely crap on the Dolphins, but, you know, now is the time to put up or shut up. You know, we've heard all this talk about how great Tua is and, you know, all the progress he's made. Well, that's easy to say when you're playing the bums, you know, from Pittsburgh or, you know, whatever team that you're talking about, the Bears defense, the Lions, the list goes on. let's see how you do against the 49ers, which, when you're looking at the NFC and you're thinking about teams that could be playing there in February in the Super Bowl, this team is high on the list, if not at the top in the NFC, especially the way they've been playing lately. That defense especially has been stellar. Offensively, they didn't really show it last week, but Jimmy G is, looking competent enough at quarterback, in the passing game. They have a solid running game. And look, McDaniel's coming in with an offense that the 49ers know pretty well. And granted, they do have Tyreek Hill there. They do have Jalen Waddle there. That team is going to be it's going to be a test for the Niners defense too, but I think they will be up to the task. I am taking the Niners in this one. Surprise, surprise.
Yes. Go ahead, Justin. Who do you like?
Well, I think Robert makes the crucial point there with this 49ers defense being familiar with the type of offense they're going to see. You look at the 49ers success when they've played other teams that kind of run the offense from the Shanahan scheme. So I'm talking the Rams and I'm talking the Packers. Well, the 49ers have fared pretty well against those offenses. Obviously, they know how to defend it because their coach is an expert at it. And that defense is so good. It doesn't need any advantages as far as familiarity with what the offense is going to do. They're good against any offense. That's a top-notch unit, and I would say the best defense in football right now. So, that 3.5 is it's a tricky line. I was tempted by Miami here, but I just think San Fran is a tough team. They're my NFC pick, and I'm not going to change it anytime soon. Even with Jimmy G, who they tried to get out of town over the offseason, even with him at quarterback and the iffy nature of his play at times, I'm not scared off by the extra half point. So I'll take the Niners.
All right. Well, guess what? I'm going with the Dolphins.
Well,
I'll tell you why.
Well, I'd hope so. I mean, look what you're wearing. Jeez.
Well, I know, but I've gone against Miami in other times. And to be honest with you, originally I was going to pick the Niners, but thought about it some more, and I'm going with the Dolphins. Let me tell you why. So, yeah,
because
you guys.
You watched highlights from Super Bowl 19, and you're upset. So that's why.
38-16, I don't forget that. No, because, look, you guys both make great points. Yes, the Niners know the offense, the Dolphins run and everything. I get that. But knowing what's coming and actually being able to defend it, two very big different things. I mean, you're talking Hill and Waddle. These two guys you guys know better than me. They're fast. They can get open. There's a lot of things that I think McDaniel has been, I don't know if he's been saving it for this game, but I think you might see some new wrinkles and things, try to change some things up. Raheem Mostert's healthy. He didn't play last week. He's playing this week. The Dolphins running game with Wilson, Jeff Wilson Jr. there, since they traded both these running backs are former 49ers, which I think is kind of cool too. So the key to it though is Miami's offensive line. Teron Armstead suffered a pectoral injury, left the game. Austin Jackson injured an ankle again, and he's out definitely. Teron Armstead might play today. Mike McDaniel's press conference, I watched it earlier, and Teron Armstead is going to try to play on Sunday. Now, how effective he'll be, we don't know. And yeah, Miami's offensive line was kind of dog due after he went out last week with Tua getting sacked. And one way he was kind of bent like a pretzel, which was not very pleasing to say the least. But I think the key thing here for Miami offensively is if they can protect Tua and give him just a teeny little bit of time to throw, which he doesn't need anyways, with the speed of Waddle and Hill and the running of Mostert and Wilson, I think they can get some points. Not saying they're going to score 30, but I think they can get around 24 to 27 points on the Niners here. Now, defensively, Miami, look, they've been banged up in the secondary, but the pass rush is starting to come along, okay? Chubb, Ingram, Jalen Phillips, second-year player, number 15 out of the U, has been really coming along great lately. And Christian Wilkins, who I think is one of the best defensive linemen in all of football. If the Dolphins can rattle Jimmy G and Jimmy G can throw an interception or two, watch out. That's going to be the key. So if the Dolphins can get some pressure on Jimmy G and get some points, I like them to cover the 3.5. So I'm picking them to cover. I think if they lose, it's not going to be by much. I think they could win the game, no doubt about it. But it's going to be tough. The Niners are a very good team, and arguably, I think are the best team in the NFC. But I think Miami can cover the 3.5. So if you want to call me, we're in aqua and orange glasses, go for it. But I think Miami can cover the spread in this game, and I'm going with them. So there.
Well, I'm just glad that you went into that little room behind you, you grabbed the pair, and actually made a pick in favor of your team this time around instead of picking against them. Come on, it's about time.
Our last game, a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game, the Kansas City Chiefs, 2.5-point favorites on the road at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, they're starting to come along now. They've had some injuries. I guess Joe Mixon's supposed to be playing in this game. The Chiefs, look, they have the best record in the AFC right now. They're 9-2. They're cruising along. But I think the Bengals are going to have a good home field advantage this week, which I think helps. And I think the Bengals are out to show that last year wasn't a fluke. They won in overtime and everything. Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the home dog to cover. So I'm going with the Bengals. Go ahead, Robert. Who do you like?
This is a tough one. I credit to the Bengals for going into Nashville, on Sunday and, really handing it to the Titans. The Titans, were on a bit of a roll there after a slow start and, looked like a team that, they were kind of gearing up for the playoff run there. And the Bengals, it wasn't like the playoff game last year. It was in the sense that it was low scoring, but that game, you could argue that the Titans dominated. Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times and really should have won that game. In this case, the Bengals and Burrow outplayed the Titans, fair and square. Played very well on defense, really kept Derrick Henry in check, with the exception of that long pass catch that he had. And the Bengals offense did enough, especially in the second half. So, this is a tough one because the Chiefs, you look at how they played last week against the Rams, and it kind of makes you scratch your head because the Rams, really have been struggling on both sides of the ball, and the record certainly reflects that. And, I think a lot of people thought, well, that game's not going to be particularly close. And, it in the end, it wasn't, but certainly the Chiefs offense didn't look as well as it has. The defense, really, I think, won that game for them in a lot of ways. So, I think the Chiefs can do enough to win. This is a small enough spread. Some of these bigger spreads with the Chiefs, have gotten all of us in trouble at various points. When we're talking 5.5, 6.5, it's like, well, is Mahomes going to show up? Is that defense going to show up? This, you just need them to win by 3. I think that they can beat the Bengals by 3. I think it will be a close game, though. I think the Bengals have been playing, pretty well lately. They shouldn't be overlooked at all, especially, if they're getting Mixon back, Jamar Chase, getting healthy as well. That's going to be a huge addition for that passing game. So, I think that it can be close, but at the end, the Chiefs have Mahomes, and if it comes down to needing a field goal at the end, I think he can get him in position to do it.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, I was not high on the Bengals this year. I didn't think they were going to win the AFC North. I thought they were a little fluky. They're running the Super Bowl. I've said that several times this season, but you got to give them credit. They are. I think they're trending towards winning the AFC North with the way the Ravens are playing. Joe Burrow, what he's done without Chase the last month or so, very impressive. He's got I think 7 interceptions, something like that this year. You take away the ones he's thrown against the Steelers, he's only got 2 on the whole season. He threw 4 week 1 and only 4 since. So that would be 8 interceptions on the season. So they're coming along nicely, and they're a dangerous team. When they just give Burrow a little bit of time, they have so many playmakers on that offense that they can move the ball, they can score points, and he's been really good with his decision making this year. So definitely don't want to count out the Bengals in the AFC. It's funny, being the defending conference champions, they haven't been a big part of the conversation, with everyone talking about the Bills and the Chiefs. The Bengals are right there lurking. So all that said, yeah, I think there was a lot of discussion on some of the broadcasts earlier this season regarding Mahomes and the Chiefs, and just how pissed off Mahomes was at his performance last year in the AFC Championship. And, yeah, sure, they have some games here and there when they kind of lollygag and don't put up as many points as they probably could. Last week against the Rams being an example, but they're one of those teams that, aside from when they lost the Bills, when they face genuine talent on the other side this year, I think of the Buccaneers when they played their defense, when they played the 49ers and their defense, they do have this kind of knack of rising to the occasion. And I think this game's going to be another example that 2.5 points, even on the road, is not very much. So I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Oh, wow. Okay. All righty. So our other topic is going to be, what division race are you looking forward to coming down the stretch? And I'm going to throw one out there that, well, I'm sure you all thought I was going to say the AFC East, and well, it is a great race, no doubt about it. But I'm going to throw this one out here. How about the NFC East? Okay. I mean, look, the Eagles, they're 10-1. They're the leader, but the Cowboys, I mean, they've survived the loss of Dak Prescott, and they're thriving. And the Giants, they got off to that great start, but they've faltered, but they're still in the thicket for a wild card. And Robert's favorite NFC East team, the Washington Commies, look out for them. Taylor Heineke getting it done at quarterback, and the defense without Chase Young too, getting it done. And they're in there. They all have winning records in that division, which is astounding. Could we see all 3 wild cards come out of the NFC East? I think it's a distinct possibility. And I think the Eagles are going to win the division when it's all said and done. But I think it's going to be tighter than a lot of people thought a month ago. I think the Cowboys are going to be right up there and might actually maybe lose the division by a game, if that. And it's going to be fun to see these teams come down the stretch. And if all 4 of them can make the playoffs, I think it tells you something, that what a division the NFC East really is, when all of us were making jokes and calling it the NFC least earlier this year. So it's entertaining and it's fun, and I'm enjoying it. That's for sure. Justin, what division race are you following intently?
Well, I'm not following any of them intensely. I just watch the whole league. And but as far as the one I'm looking forward to watching down the stretch, listen, you could go with the AFC East, you could go with the NFC East. Those are the easy answers, and they're probably the right answers. Let's not get it twisted here. But I'm just in a sick, twisted way, I'm loving what's going on in the NFC South.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. And actually, I thought about saying that too, but I'm like, nah, I can't go there. That Robert would laugh at me if I said the NFC South, but thank you.
I mean, yeah, listen, the AFC East and NFC East are going to be fun divisions to watch down the stretch, no doubt. I mean, all 8 of the East teams are over 500. It's just the turnaround in those 2 divisions over what we've been seeing over the last, really since it seems like the early 90s, when those East teams were winning the Super Bowl every single year. But yeah, it's a good story in both divisions there. But the NFC South, I think Tampa's going to win it, but I'm not positive. I mean, the way they play, they are. It's unbelievable how they've fallen off from the offense that they've been in the last few years. And I think their defense they played really well the first quarter of games this season, but they're not some like lockdown unit like we were talking about the 49ers earlier. They have their flaws. I mean, they just lost to Jacoby Brissett. Come on. So I really don't. It's one of those funny divisions. You don't know who's going to win it because they're all bad. And I'm looking at the schedule and I see that Week 18 matchup between Tampa and Atlanta, who's second place right now, and it's like, is that going to be for the division? I mean, imagine saying that before the season. Like, is that going to be the game that NBC flexes in the prime time because it's going to decide who goes to the playoffs and who doesn't? I mean, it just exemplifies how crazy this season has been and how unpredictable this season has been, that the NFC South, I think we all envisioned it being not the most competitive division and certainly not the deepest division, but for all the teams to be this bad, I think a couple of us had you talk about the Saints. I think a couple of us had the Saints contending for a playoff position. They've been dreadful. They're 4-8, and yet they're still not out of it. It's a mixture of just awesome as a person who doesn't like the Buccaneers, and also kind of embarrassing. And when it comes to the NFL, that's not necessarily the worst mix. So I can't wait to see who wins this dog division, and then gets absolutely smoked in the first round of the playoffs.
Robert?
Yeah, the NFC South, has a little bit of my attention because, it's definitely a candidate for one of those divisions where a team with a losing record wins it. We've talked about these in the past, that the NFC West used to be a contender for this, and sometimes the NFC East too. But the one that I'm going to be watching is the AFC North. Right now the Bengals and Ravens are 7-4. Really, it's a 6-game duel for them to figure that out. But you also have the Browns sitting there to play spoiler, because the Browns with Deshaun Watson at quarterback beginning this week, the Browns play the Bengals and Ravens each one more time. So they could have a say in all this. And, I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson catapults the Browns into, they're going to win out and that they're going to be challenging for a playoff spot. Although, certainly they're technically not out of it right now. It's going to be tough in that AFC though. But I think they can play spoiler here, especially with the Bengals and Ravens ahead of them. That division is always tough. They play each other tough. Anything can happen in those games. Even if you look at a team like the Steelers, which, right now they're sitting in, at the bottom of that division, they're building more for the future. But they certainly have it in them to, pull off an upset here or there. So, I think that division is going to be a fun one to watch, because I suspect that, both of those teams will get in, barring, some sort of collapse. But, which one will get the home game, in the first round? Ritz mentioned it earlier. I do think that the Bengals are in the driver's seat there. I think that they're playing much better football right now, especially after that Ravens loss to Jacksonville. I think that was a bit of a head scratcher, and the way that they kind of gave away that game, in Jacksonville. I get that that's a tricky place to play. The Colts for years have had trouble there. My Bills went down there last year for some reason. It's this weird place that can suck in good teams, but in Baltimore's case, it was a costly loss, and one that at the end of the season we could be talking about making the difference between them winning that division and getting a wild card. So I think that'll be a fun one to watch, especially with the Deshaun Watson led Browns in the picture. How does that improve that team, and change those games coming up against the Bengals and Ravens that'll maybe not for the Browns, but who knows if they win out, but certainly for the Bengals and Ravens have major implications. So we'll see how that goes. The NFC least, certainly the NFC beast this year. I don't think that the division's really much of a question. I will like to see, can they get all 4 teams in? If the playoffs started today, they would all be in, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, that division's been a wild one this year too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be fun to see what happens. So, all right, gentlemen, anything else you want to add?
All set.
All right, folks, we'll wrap it up.
Jordan Love season.
Yeah, well, enjoy the games this weekend. Be safe out there, and we will see you next week.